My life fades. The vision dims. All that remains are memories. I remember a time of chaos, ruined dreams, this wasted land.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of From the Wastes. Today's guest is J.J. Shurte. J.J. is the author of Days Too Dark, a post-apocalyptic story that takes place in Australia, but not quite the Australia we remember. J.J. is also a guest contributor at post-apocalytpicmedia.com, often writing articles on video games, television shows, and movies within the post-apocalyptic genre. JJ's got a website, www.jjshurte.com, and he can also be found on Twitter at JJShurte. JJ, welcome to the Wastes. Dude, you have been busy. Tell me what, you're an Australian.
Yes, I am.
But you are not in Australia. Where are you?
I am in Taiwan at the moment.
What are you doing in Taiwan?
I'm in Taiwan teaching English to children. That's something new for me.
Wow. You know, I got a question. Okay, so you're Australian, you're in Taiwan, teaching children English. So are we going to have folks from Taiwan speaking English with an Australian accent?
Yes, actually. That's funny. We sort of touched on this in our training. They lined up all the people from like West Coast America, the American South, South Africans, New Zealanders, Australians, and they got us all to say like certain words, like beer and bear, and it's sort of just we saw how the accent can change from different regions, and they're like, with phonics, we have to speak with a North American accent. But just in general, every day, talking with the students, we can just use our normal voice. So one for me is like, I'll say car instead of car. Oh. And just like, I'll say school. And like at certain points, kids will just start parroting what I'm saying. Because I also like grammar, not grammar. And just, but see, like my old man was from Kentucky, so I can sort of like slide into like a cheesy American accent sometimes, but
okay,
looking for. So yeah, it's been interesting, and they're all aware that some of these kids are going to start sounding Australian.
that would be I don't know, I think it'd be cool, but you are an independent author. And you recently what was it, back in January, you published was it your first book?
No, but we don't talk about the first book.
Oh, the book that shall not be named. Okay.
Yep.
But
right.
You published Days Too Dark.
Mm-hmm.
An amazing, awesome, incredible post-apocalyptic book. And talk about it. Tell me about it.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but like I started it years ago. Like it was just this random little story that I started because like I just had this one dream one night, and it was just trippy. And I decided to sort of start a story that was based around this one dream I had, and it's set in the house that it's set in. Like that's a real house. Like I know most of the people that the characters, they're based on real people. And just life just kept happening, and it sort of went from like this one, like wasn't even like a short story. It was like 10,000 words to start with, and it just kept growing and growing, and eventually it just turned into what it is now. So yeah, it's been a journey, I guess.
Well, and it's not just your typical. Um, it's not just your typical book. I mean, this thing is. It's got pictures. It's got It's got art. It's got maps. It's got.
Mm.
There's a lot of stuff going on with it that isn't just your basic 200-page text
Mm.
book.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about collaborating with artists or?
Yeah. That was interesting. Like I'd worked with Wellard before. He's my go-to artist. He's from Russia. Really good guy. Yeah, if anyone wants anything done that's post-apocalyptic, go hunt him down. He's your man. Um, yeah, I checked out Upwork because I needed like a lot of things done. So like I found this woman in Rome and she did like the tarot cards. Like I wanted something completely different from the other artwork style. And so she did this sort of really colorful, really sort of, nice, non-violent, non-sort of aggressive style for the tarot cards that are in the book. Um, there's a few other things, like there's some sketches by other characters in the story, and so I wanted a different artist for that as well. So I found this guy in Thailand, and so he did a few things. And my graphic designer is this awesome guy who just travels around the world and just works wherever he wants to. I think he's in Peru. I know he's somewhere in South America at the moment, but he's been helping me with the latest project as well. And so, yeah, you meet some interesting people in this sort of industry. So, yeah.
Well, so it was a pretty kind of a international.
Oh yeah,
thing
yeah. It
going
just
on.
like it's spiraled and just unbelievable. Like,
Wow. And
yeah, so it's been
uh,
interesting. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you have plans? Is it the first of a series or is it a standalone?
Oh,
I mean, I read it.
yeah.
But do you plan on continuing on with that?
Yeah, so this is the thing. Like, I sort of went about this, and this has sort of been like a learning experience for me, actually. I sort of put the cart before the horse and did like the magnum opus at the start, which is just it's not a very smart way to do things. So like this is going to be a trilogy. Like this sort of story arc has three entries,
Hmm.
but just looking at how like the whole industry work, there's also going to be at the moment it's looking like two 5-part series that sort of deal with the city it's set in, but not focusing on these characters. Like it's just like a broader view of what sort of happened. Because in Days Too Dark, it's actually sort of like retelling of like the 18 years since the world ended.
Hmm.
And so like that's a lot of time to sort of like, there's a lot of things that can happen in that amount of time. So yeah, these other series are going to go back and sort of explore that. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, I mean, I'm obviously looking forward to it. I know you have another project in the works, but I think I want to wait a little later on, wait for a little while to talk about that until we're closer to the end. Just as a big
Cool.
tease to listeners, because this thing that you got going on is fucking cool, man. I mean, it's really cool. I'm really excited about it. So,
Yeah.
one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, you're not only a writer, but you're a reader as well, I would
Mm.
imagine.
Yeah.
Are there any authors that you have read that you really disliked at first, but then you started liking, or were there any? We'll go the other way as well. Were there any that you really liked and ended up not liking?
Okay. Uh, I've only read one of his works, but like when I read War and Peace last year, like, and I read that at my old job. Like, my old job was just cushy. It was cruisy. I knew what to do, so I just do everything, and then I just read at work. And so I was like, I'll just read War and Peace. Like, I'm an author. Like, I need to read sort of like the pillars of the industry. And so, and like I hated it at first. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is going nowhere. And it's like 1,000+ pages.
Right.
I kept going through it, and I'm like, okay, this is going somewhere. It's going okay. And by the end, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I love this. Like, the scale, the scope of the story was just, I loved it.
Is that have you read a lot of the, I guess, quote unquote classics? I stay away from them. Can't stand them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
all the books that you had to like read in high school. You know,
Yeah.
To
Okay.
Kill a Mockingbird and all those just bored me to absolute tears. Except of course 1984. But do
Yeah.
you, after reading War and Peace, do you find that you want to kind of read more of kind of the classic literature? Or?
Yeah, there's a few I sort of want to hit. Like I've picked up Ulysses. I haven't started reading it yet. Like again, it's you could beat someone to death with that thing. It's massive, and so there's a few that I want to get to at some point, just to sort of see, how they, because like I don't just read for the enjoyment. I don't just read because I'm a fan. Like, sorry, I also read to sort of like deconstruct them, see what they've done, see what works, what doesn't, sort of thing. So yeah. In terms of authors I've liked and then just steadily liked a lot less, this will annoy people. Justin Cronin, he wrote The Passage.
Oh, that was
Uh,
just recently. Is that the one that was made into a miniseries?
they've, I don't know, is
No,
it out yet?
no. You know
Hmm.
what? Totally not the same thing. Continue.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of something completely different.
Well, I know this has been made into a series. I don't know if it's
Oh,
out yet, but he wrote like it was The Passage, The 12, and then City of Mirrors. And I really dug the first one, but then the second one came out, and by the third one, I'm like, the way this guy writes just irritates me. It just so irksome.
are there any authors that you won't read that you I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't ask that question. No,
Yeah.
no. Are there any authors that you just you can't? No, I'm not going to read them.
Not in post-apocalyptic. No, there's no one that sort of just flat out like I won't read them. But actually, I suppose like yeah, like this is where like you and I might butt heads, but like I can't do the whole young adult thing. So like
Right.
I
Yeah.
do like Maze Runner. Just yeah, there was like I've done the audiobooks for all the Harry Potter,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, that's a really good series, but that sort of kickstarted this movement of like let's just target teenagers, and there's something in the way those stories are crafted.
Hmm.
They like I don't like the way they target like the insecurities of teenagers and like that desire for like a place in the world, and you know you know you've got the responsibilities of an adult, but you don't have any of the authority yet, and so like we're all lost at that age, and there's just something about the way they target it. It rubs me the wrong way, and like
Well,
I fully get there's probably a lot of really great stories, but yeah.
and the
Mm.
thing is aren't we kind of lost through our whole adult life?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
totally.
really. I mean, who the hell? I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. I don't know how old you are. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
that's
no idea, not a clue. I just kind of go day to day, and I wonder what the hell am I doing? I mean, I got kids, I got a job, but I still just kind of stumble along, looking for
yeah,
my way, thinking there's got to be something better than this. Not something better than my family and stuff, but there's got to be with the just day to day doldrums of going to work
yeah,
and doing all that, and uh, yeah. So I don't know. For me, I feel like adulthood really isn't a whole lot more different than teenagehood, other than the fact that I have to pay for my house and a car and insurance. I basically have to pay a lot more money. I basically have to pay for shit instead
yeah,
of having
yeah,
parents to pay for it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But one of the things I like about YA literature is that it it seems to keep the reader engaged because young readers. I mean, if you don't keep them engaged, they're gonna just okay. This is boring. I hate it, and then they're gonna move on to something
they're
else.
done.
And
They're out.
so they tend
Yeah,
to be a lot more action all the time. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying about the YA stuff. Is it gets real formulaic. It's always the teenager who's nobody, and then they become somebody, but they're not sure they want to be somebody, and then they decide, yes, I am somebody, and against these insurmountable odds. And my wife and I just went to go see a new movie that came out called something. It could have been called anything, really, within the YA deal.
Okay, cool.
It was, it was kind of a dystopian deal where there was some, I don't know if it was a plague, where it killed off all children except for some, and the children it didn't kill off ended up gaining some sort of power, like, and they had nicknames for all of them, but like some could,
Yeah.
some had telekinesis, they could move stuff. Some could just kind of see the future if they touched somebody, or they could see what that person was going to do if they touched them, and it was actually pretty good, but it was absolutely formulaic. I mean, it followed the formula of young adult literature, and it left on I don't want to say a cliffhanger, but it left you going, okay, next one, let's go. Okay, come on, I need the other one, or the next one, and I would venture to guess there isn't going to be a next one because I never even saw a preview on TV for this thing.
No. The Darkest Minds.
That's it.
Yep.
Yep. But yeah, it was. I thought the acting was good. Yeah, it was a fun, just a fun YA flick. But I totally get it that a lot of people kind of just get bored, tired of that stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, like maybe that's just why I don't like it because like I'll watch it, but like, damn it, I can still relate to this.
I know.
So maybe,
I know.
Maybe my brain is just defending me.
Yeah.
Don't
well,
go there, man.
Well, and here you are. I mean, you're on quite the adventure. I mean, you busted out of Australia. You're in Taiwan. You're teaching a bunch of people English.
Yeah.
And it was almost like on a whim. I remember when you mentioned it on Twitter, I was like, "What the fuck? What?" Yeah, I'm going to Taiwan. I'm going to teach English. Oh, well, okay. I'm going to head down to the post office and mail some bills, and yeah. So, and this is that's for a year, right? You're going to be there for a year.
Yeah, at least a year. So we're just going to see what happens.
Wow.
Like, because like I said, I was working in a bottle liquor store, and so like that was just my day job while I sort of wrote on the side. But this is, the pay is roughly the same. The cost of living over here is way lower, but it's also more in line with my career as a writer. Like I'm teaching English, I'm around English all day, every day. So yeah, it works really well. Like one of my coworkers is actually an indie author as well, so I've just been like hitting her up and chatting with her, about this sort of stuff. So that's been really good. So,
do you think are you gonna have more time to write while you're doing this than you were?
Once I get the sort of the pattern down, like new country, new job, like I'm sort of learning everything, and so. But yeah, definitely, yeah, the hours are less than what I was doing back in Australia. So,
one of the things I saw you were posting on Twitter a lot of pictures. Of the landscape of the buildings and stuff like that. And one of the things that really struck me was you were talking about how the outside of the buildings will look, completely run down. There's like vines and shit growing out of the cracks, and but when you go inside these buildings, it's completely pristine and clean and nice and all that. But are you finding that are you finding a lot of ideas and influences for stuff you want to write later on?
Yeah,
or
definitely. Like like I walk home at night, and there's this one street I pass. There's just this tree, like it's sort of half grown out over the road, and it's sort of like just arching over this laneway, and like you'd never get that back in Australia. Like it's just this. They've just like left this tree here. Like it's really good. Like if there's a tree around, like it just drops the temperature a bit anywhere around the tree because the humidity is what gets you here. And so like the trees just suck it all up, apparently. I don't know how it works, but yeah, so there's a lot of like greenery around here. And so if there's a gigantic tree that just happens to be half on a road, they just leave it there.
Really?
And so like I want to go back during the day and get a photo of this like one laneway with this tree that's just growing out over it. So I'll get there eventually. Like I'm here for a year. So but yeah, there's a lot of stuff like I sort of didn't believe it at first. Like it's just been like this really weird trip because like you said, like these buildings some are just crumbling. There's like skyscrapers, shack, skyscraper, and just it's just how it is over here. So it's been interesting. Yeah.
And you've only been there for like a month, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you haven't
yeah.
been there very long.
No, no. So,
Wow.
but yeah, loving it, loving it.
Um, how did you market Days Too Dark? Are you
Oh,
and
terribly.
really and also you're not. I was going to ask if you're happy with the way you marketed it, but apparently not.
Oh, again, first book. Like, I'd hate to be one of those people who like just instant success, and you're like, oh, where do I go from here? So, but that may just be rationalizing starting at the bottom. But who knows? Yeah, like I said, like being an indie, there's a whole slew of information you've sort of got to absorb and sort of take on board. So like I'm happy, like if I can hit up people on Twitter, like I'm always happy to like take advice, especially with the marketing side of things, because I'm one of those people who's just like I just want to write, like just no marketing, advertising, just yeah. So, but being an indie, you've got to sort of stick your finger in a whole bunch of different pies and sort of do it all yourself. So yeah.
So when you write, are you writing? Are you writing for yourself, or are you when you're writing, are you saying I'm going to write this book and I want to make millions and I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make this is going to be it right here? Or when you write, are you just man, I really this story kicks ass. I don't even care if anybody reads it. I just really like it. This is cool. If 3 or 4 people dig it, that's not cool. Or are you looking to because you mentioned that you were writing on the side and that you had a day job. Will you eventually at some point want to be have your writing be your job?
Yeah.
And that's what you do.
Yeah, like I definitely had that period where I'm all about the artistic integrity. Pardon me. And like I was like, I'm just going to write for me, and I will be the starving artist. And I'm like, well, can I at least aim to make this a job so I can live off this? So, and like I said before, like the cart before the horse, like Days Too Dark was very much a passion project. Like I will always have that. And this trilogy, that's going to be like my core sort of passion. Like that's going to be my artistic one. But these other series that I'm sort of starting to build at the moment, they're sort of going to be a bit more like, okay, let's be a bit smarter about this. Let's keep it PA. But let's sort of work with what I've got, like what my audience wants. So just being a bit smarter about, going about how I work this. So I'll try and do both.
Yeah.
That's the ideal. Like actors, like actors, they've got like the studio movies where like they're contracted to do a bunch of movies. So like you'll see like some big name actor in like a really weird movie, and you're like, well, they had to do it to make money.
Yeah.
But then they've got those passion projects as well. Like they want to do them. So
right. Yeah, and eventually they get to the point where they can totally pick and choose what they want to do, and sometimes all they end up doing big stuff, and then all of a sudden all they want to do is indie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm really, God, I wish it's frustrating because there is so much good indie stuff out there, and the garbage that keeps coming out of Hollywood, just the crap that comes out of Hollywood, just the reboots and the remakes and the reimaginings, and I mean I understand that there's only 7 stories in the world. There's only ever been 7 stories, and every story that's ever been written or told is just a variation of a theme of one of those stories. But I mean, how many times do we have to reboot Men in Black, or how many times do we have to reboot Ghostbusters, or where I can go and click on YouTube and do a quick search of post-apocalyptic indie films, and there is some amazing shit on there. Yeah, it's 10-15 minutes long. It's amazing. It's a story, and there's stories that haven't been told, and they are a variation on a theme, but there's such a, I don't know how to explain it. There's such a variation that you're like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, are there not people in Hollywood that are like, okay, we got this, somebody's going on YouTube and just clicking and watching some of this shit, and going to some producer and going, there's this little 10-minute thing, man, it's awesome, we can make $1 million on this, or I guess today $400 million.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like Hollywood's still a business, and so they want to do
Right.
safe bets. I had this thing like before I left Australia, like Vin Diesel versus The Rock.
Hmm.
Like I can't watch Rock movies anymore. Like he's The Rock in whatever he is in.
Yeah.
It's just and like Vin Diesel has made some bad movies. Yeah, can't argue that. But like at least he's got like movies he actually believes in, and like
Right.
that for me that's sort of like okay, I would prefer to watch something like Vin Diesel sort of put his heart into than something The Rock's like I can make the biggest blockbuster for the year. I'm like yeah, but I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, there's definitely some great stuff out there, and like I think it's sort of like horror movies, like post-apocalyptic films are sort of really well suited for like low budget, sort of like indie projects. So
Right.
it's just, like it just sort of lends itself. Like you don't really see like I suppose there's like indie comedies on YouTube, maybe like little skit companies that make stuff for YouTube.
Oh, I would
But you,
think
you
so.
don't like, you don't see like dramas that are indie. You don't see you'd see sci-fi that's indie
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
but yeah, westerns don't really see them. So there's just something about post-apocalyptic that they sort of tend to lend itself to indie projects. So
Is that why you went with with the post-apocalyptic genre? I mean, is it is that something that you have loved forever, and you're like, by God, I have got to write, and I have got to write something PA.
well, there's a few things like my dad showed me like Mad Max 2 when I was like 3 years old. He
Wow.
was like, I love this movie, watch this. And like he's
Wow.
like, you cried when that guy like tried to catch the boomerang from the feral kid and it chopped his fingers off. I'm like, I
Tony,
was
yeah.
3.
Everybody
Like, what do
laughed.
you expect? Like, and then I was in New Zealand because like my mom's from New Zealand, and so like I'd go there every like year or two to like spend time with that side of the family. And one of my cousins showed me like Resident Evil 2. I think it was the original PlayStation, and like I was camping at the time, and like this guy had like escaped from prison, and like it was known that he was in the area, and so like I'd just been like
This is for
traumatized.
real.
This is for real, yeah.
Oh.
Like this guy escaped,
Oh, jeez.
and so like I'd been traumatized by Resident Evil 2 because I was like, I think I was like 10 or 11 or something. I was really young, and he's like, here's a zombie game, and guys getting their heads ripped off by monsters with giant tongues. And I was like, ah. And then yeah, I'm in a camping ground, and like everyone knows there's like this escaped convicts running around, and like I remember like sprinting to like the toilet blocks at night, just being terrified, and I'm like, this is
Oh my
so.
God.
I've just had these instances like through my childhood where I've just been. It's just always post-apocalyptic stuff. So yeah, it's just always been the thing I've gone to.
So obviously, you like PA games as well, and I was going to mention that one of the first we started following each other, and I had noticed that you had a YouTube channel, and so I went to it and I saw that you had a playthrough of the Mad Max game for
Yeah.
Xbox
Hmm.
or Xbox One.
One. Yeah.
Xbox One, and I hadn't had any plan on getting an Xbox One, and so I figured because the only two games I wanted on it was Mad Max and Fallout 4,
Hmm.
and so I went ahead and watched your playthroughs. And do you play predominantly PA games on consoles, or is that just did you play it because it was Mad Max? Um,
I at a certain point you just can't play every game. Like
right.
there are certain games that I will get like no matter what. Like still like my favorite game ever is The Witcher 3. It's not post-apocalyptic, but it's just such an amazing game. Like there's the scope of it, the story, the setting. It's amazing. And they're making Project CD Red, the company. I'm sorry, I forget what the name is. They're making Cyberpunk 2077. It's sort of like this dystopian cyberpunk setting. Like it's dystopian, so I'll play that for sure. But then also like Red Dead Redemption 2, that's coming out soon. Not PA, but I'll play that. But yeah, predominantly it's post-apocalyptic games because I love the genre, but also to sort of limit what I'm playing. Like I can justify not buying other games now just because like this is for writing, it's research.
Ah.
I have.
Yeah, I have to play it. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Really?
lies we tell ourselves.
Well, are you a Fallout fan? Did you like Fallout 4? I mean, have you played any of the earlier games?
I was the only one I knew who played Fallout 1 and 2 for about 10 years. Like I tried to get
Same here.
I tried to get all my friends into it and they're like, "Nah, that looks lame."
Yeah.
I'm like, "It's amazing."
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I got into Fallout 1 like 98. Like I think I just missed the launch. But yeah, so I played all the originals. And like the only ones I haven't played is those early console games like Fallout Brotherhood of Steel.
Oh, let's not go there.
Yeah. No, like I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not kidding you. I was playing Brotherhood of Steel, and at the time, my wife would read at night when we go to bed, and I would sit there and play something. And I was playing a Brotherhood of Steel, and I think that's probably the closest I ever had gotten to her just fucking packing up and leaving. She hated that game, and it sucked. It was bad. It was bad. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Nothing redeeming about it. It wasn't even a Fallout game as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of like Highlander 2. Isn't it Highlander 2? It's like the Highlander that we don't talk about. Even though I liked Highlander 2, it was one of the Highlanders where everyone just like we just kind of we kind of forget about that one.
Yeah.
Well, what about this Fallout? What about 76 that's coming out? What do you think with the MMO thing?
I will probably get it. Like that's just, but I'm not going to get it when it comes out. Like I've sort of given myself like. I've got a dystopian story I want to write before Fallout, so I'll get that done. Just so I've got like a goal and a reward just for finishing this project. So whenever I finish that, then I'll get a console and get Fallout 76. Like I'll have to upgrade the internet here. Like Taiwan has like crazy good internet. Like I was sort of setting up the hotel or like my apartment, and they're they don't sort of charge you by download limit. They charge you by the speed.
Oh.
And I was like, so there's just no limit. Like you can just do whatever you want.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's cool. Okay. Like Australia has terrible internet. Yeah, so Australia just has a really bad internet setup. Like we just got like this new they call it the national NBN, the National Broadband Network. And like they're going to use like the highest tech, to sort of like connect everyone, especially like the rural areas. Like they're so far out. Right. Like there's so much space in Australia, but none of it, most of it's not even used.
Yeah.
And so connecting everyone with a really good internet network has always been problematic. And like they've set up this new system where like all the interconnections are like the highest fiber optics. I don't know. I'm not a technician, but all I know is like. It's really high speed till it gets to like the junction boxes in your area, and then it just reverts to the old copper.
Oh.
So it's like it gets to your house, and just it slows down, and it's just like everyone's like, "This is a joke." Like you spent millions on this, and like nothing's changed.
Right. So unless you completely redo all the wiring in your house, as far as
straight out to the box, yeah,
then you're really not gaining anything.
Yeah, so, yeah. Oh, well. But I'm in Taiwan now, so we have good internet here. Yeah, so whatever, I don't care about that. It's fine.
But you didn't bring any consoles with you or anything. I mean, are you able to game at all? Do they have arcades there? I mean,
they've got like LAN places. Remember that you'd get LAN parties where they got like shops that are just LANs. Like there's computers there and people go in there and they game and like I don't know, cool.
Kind of like internet cafe type of thing. Well, yeah, where you could go in and they'd have like a dozen laptops or a dozen PCs or whatever, and you could sit there and game with whatever.
So they got them here. Like, I haven't really seen them before in Australia. Like, maybe I'm just not in a big enough city, but yeah, I've never seen them before. But yeah, like they got consoles here, so but yeah, I got no consoles, but I'll get one eventually.
Are you into the retro gaming at all? I mean, do you like the old 8-bit, 16-bit type of stuff, or are you kind of, that was cool then?
Like I was just checking out a game store down the road, and like I saw like they've remade like The Secret of Mana from like the old SNES days.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, like I'd get that. Like there's a few old like, see, I sort of pine for the old days of like RPGs from like Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like Link to the Past,
Chrono Trigger, Secret of
Chrono
Evermore.
Terranigma, that was a really great one. Like Lufia 2, like that. The scope of those games is huge.
Yeah.
And so like you don't really find that these days. Like you could sink a lot of time into those old games.
Yeah.
But these days they're like, here's 20 hours and you're done. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and here's a bunch of DLC that probably should have been in the game, but whatever. We'll have you pay extra for it. What do you think about mods? What do you think? Like with Fallout 4, I don't know if you played Skyrim, but what do you think about the whole mod thing?
I sort of got into mods with Fallout 4, and I really enjoyed them. Like a lot of like the weather changing ones.
Yeah.
Like, because like Fallout 4 is a base game. It's good. I enjoyed it. I put a lot of time in it. And you get these mods. You sort of like start mixing things up a bit, like radiation storms, like the mist and all that. And yeah, so I like that sort of stuff. Like they tweak like the color palette a lot. Because like Fallout 4 was like, it was bright. Like the buildings are like these teal and orange and stuff, and you're like, okay, cool. It's retro future. But then you look back at like Fallout 1 and 2, and it's just this drab sort of like West Coast desert area. And so there was a few that sort of, modded Fallout 4 to be a bit more in line with the originals. So
yeah, I've seen some pretty. They've got ones where, excuse me, it basically completely changes the Commonwealth into like a Fallout New Vegas. It's just it's all desert. And I noticed some mods coming out. I know there's that it's something Miami, and there's one that they're talking about that's taking place up in Seattle. But they say that one's not supposed to. It's not going to probably come to be until like for 2 or 3 years. But I saw some screenshots and some footage of it, and it's a whole new game. It's a whole new map. It's a whole new game. And it's a mod. It's free. Yeah. Well, I mean, do you have to have Xbox Gold to? I think you do. Anyway,
I think you get to download it. Yeah. But in terms of modding, like there's a few like quality of life ones as well. Like the last playthrough I did was with the Minutemen, and like I'm like level 100, and so like played through a fair while, and like was it a flare gun you'd use to like call in support? Yeah. And so like you're level 100, there's like this legendary Deathclaw trying to kill you. And like you shoot a flare off to call in backup, and like level 1 Minutemen come up, and you're like, what? They just get like swiped and they're dead. And you're like, well, that was useless. So there's mods that like the support of your faction is actually sort of leveled with you. So like you get this mod and like 5 guys in power armor come up with like miniguns, and you're like, thank you, you guys can help. So, but yeah, I'm open to mods. So I sort of got out before this whole Creation Club thing came in. So I don't know how that's going to affect things. Like, well, that's interesting with Fallout 76 actually, because it's always online. So how are you going to mod if the other people don't mod? So again,
right? Yeah, that will. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works. Yeah, and with the Creation Club, when it first came about, I was like, oh, gee, they want more money. They want me to pay shit. Where and the stuff they were offering was, because the stuff in Creation Club is just created by modders, and I don't know exactly how it works. I don't know if Bethesda sees a mod that's like really popular or something like that, or if you have to like apply to Bethesda. But obviously, they're just mods that are blessed by Bethesda.
I think there's like they'd know the high quality modders, and like I think they sort of bring them on board, and they fix them up. Like if there's like tiny tweaks they need to fix, like they'll do that. But
And see, and they have free mods every weekend in the
Yeah.
Creation Club, and so and they're all just kind of like skins for your armor,
Yeah.
But like I'm a big Adam Katz guy. I'm just that's my gig, baby. I mean, there's just the Adam Katz is just the coolest, hippest
Yeah.
thing that I know, and so. You can have the Adam Cat skin on your weapons and your armor and all that. So it's just kind of and your power armor, your Pip Boy, and so and that's pretty cool. One thing I noticed though is I just started playing Skyrim, and the Creation Club or the modding community in that it doesn't seem nearly as up to date. And I know that came out before Fallout 4, but because there's a Creation Club for Skyrim as well, and they've had a dwarven mud crab for free. That's the only thing they've ever had for free is a companion, and they've never. I mean, for the last 2 months. Well, no, I've only been playing it for about a month or so. There hasn't been a single new mod in the Creation Club, so I don't know if it's just kind of abandoned. But whereas the Fallout 4 mod community seems like, I mean, it's a constantly changing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always stuff being added to it. So.
Like Skyrim came out like 2011, so like
Yeah.
it's had its heyday. Like it's been re-released like 50 times now.
Yeah.
Like that's always the joke.
Yeah.
Like at this year's E3, it was like Skyrim is now released on like that Siri, Alexa sort of house AI system.
Oh.
So you can't even see it. Like it was a joke, but like you can't even see the game. Just like Alexa, climb the mountain.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, they've re-released that game so many times. But yeah, Fallout 4 definitely is where it's at these days for modding.
I'm really excited for this Fallout 76. I have always hated MMOs. I don't like playing with other people. I don't want to play with strangers, and I don't want to spawn and get shot by some punk who's sniping me from somewhere, and so. But it looks like, and it's funny you said that you're probably not going to get it when it comes out. It might be the only game I will ever or have ever purchased. When it comes out, I am so stoked for. Except for Secret of Evermore, I was waiting at the doors of Target back in '94 or '5 or whenever that was on SNES. But I'm just stoked for it. And if they have it set up to where it's just like a squad of like you and 3 or 4 other people, the only thing I'm not really keen on is the whole, being able to nuke settlements, because it seems like that's going to be the, people just, nuking you out of the blue. And
I think you can nuke like set locations. Like I think that's how they've got around that. Like because you've got to be able to like nuke an area. And then, like, that would need to be totally different in terms of, like, the location. So, like, you'd go there. And so instead of, like, them having the entire map have, like, an alternate nuked, like, visual aesthetic, they just have, like, these set locations. I'm pretty sure that's how they've got around that. So
I got you.
You just sort of, like, learn where it can be nuked and just not put a settlement there. So... But yeah, that's definitely interesting. Like they don't want griefing, but you can also nuke entire regions. So
right,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm actually interested to see if like the MAD, mutually assured destruction.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see if that will translate into like the game. Like you don't want to nuke other people because they might have nukes as well, and then they can just nuke back. I'm like, I want to see if like that sort of comes into play.
Yeah, if there's some way where the game lets you know that there are nukes incoming and that you have time to launch your own.
Yeah.
Then it might help. That's a really good idea. Instead of just you're just you all standing around in your shack or whatever, and all of a sudden mushroom cloud. That's not cool.
Yeah. No.
And with the technology that, I mean, there's power armor for crying out loud. There's computers. I mean, there's no reason why, you wouldn't have the ability to know that there are nukes incoming and where those nukes are coming from
Yeah, yeah.
in
So
game.
we'll see how it happens.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about this new project you got going on. I
Okay, cool.
saw that just yesterday, a couple days ago.
Mhm.
You released an arc out to some beta readers, and this is quite the deal. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Cool.
Okay.
Far away. You want to ask questions or do I just randomly talk?
Um, Nah, just tell me about it, man. What is this?
This is funny. Okay, I wrote this at the end of last year, well, the first draft, and I scoped out Amazon and I saw there wasn't really anything that was it hadn't been done before. There was one where like a guy had focused on like zombies specifically, and he'd written, okay, the project is a writing guide specifically to the post-apocalyptic genre. And so yeah, I scoped out Amazon. The closest thing was a guy who'd focus on zombies. The funny thing is, like, I think like 3 or 4, like it's probably about a week or two now ago, he actually updated that book to make it more general to like the entire genre as well. So I'm like, oh, I was too slow. But he's actually pretty cool. Like like the previous version, can I get a copy of the updated version as well? He's like, yeah, sure, man. Like he bought the original. So I'm gonna check that out as well. Like hopefully we're not too similar. So, but yeah, so it's a writing guide for the post-apocalyptic genre, and I wanted to sort of jot down like everything I'd learned about. It's not so much how to write; it's like how to utilize the genre as a whole, and sort of, you know, I guess the main thing for me is like I want good stories, and like if I'm gonna go out and buy a book, I want it to be good. And like I'm not one of these people like I don't want to rip on other people, but I want their stuff to be good.
Right.
So this is my effort to be like, hey, this is what I've learned. Hopefully it can help you out. If you've got some better advice, sure, throw it out there. Like if you want to attack this, great, go for it, because I want to get better as well. So, and that's being a creator and not just a fan as well. So like I sort of coming at it from both angles. Like I want to learn from better PA authors as well. So
Yeah.
sort of a ramble there, but yeah, sorry.
No, that and this isn't like some 14-page pamphlet,
No,
on how this is a 200 plus page. I've looked through it, and I, I mean, I think it's awesome, but you know,
cool.
I'm a fan, so maybe I'm biased. I don't know. Um, but just reading through, I mean, the angles you cover, and just everything that's involved with this, just the amount of information that's in this book, where especially in a genre that's, I'm not going to say it's flooding the market, because as far as I'm concerned, there can't be enough
No,
BA stories out
it,
there.
it's definitely having its day though. Like
Oh yeah,
it's
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
This is the day of the end of the world, man, and I'm loving every minute of it.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, for somebody who's wanting to, or thinking about breaking out into it, and not getting into the common tropes of just the zombie thing, and there's a billion, and making something a little bit different
Mm.
about your story, and why I should read your story instead of all the other stories that are out there. I think people are gonna. I don't know. I think this thing is gonna be awesome.
I hope so. Yeah, it because like I've we're just coming to Twitter, and like I love the PA community on Twitter. I think it's amazing. Like I was like, yes, there's actually people like me. Like
Isn't
I
it though?
was,
And it's funny because it's a apocalyptic, violent,
yeah,
kind of a, I don't want to say testosterone driven, but it's Mad Max, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
and it really is one of the, because you have the Star Wars community, you got the Star Trek community, and people like to geek out and do their thing, but there's so much infighting,
oh yeah,
where it is in the PA community. I haven't seen any. I don't know if it's just if I'm not following I guess the right people to be able to see the infighting, or I guess it'd be the wrong people. But I follow a lot of folks in the PA circles on Twitter, and I never see anybody, doing anything like that, fighting about anything.
The only real disagreement I've had, well, not even had, but like just seen, and it was more like a polite discussion. It was like whether Fury Road is part of the Mad Max canon. Like,
right?
Yeah. We were just talking about it. I'm like, okay, well, this is what I think, and
yeah,
the other guy was polite as well. So like that's it. So
well,
it's tame. So well, that was part of like the whole like Eternal Return post I made. It's sort of there's something weird going on with Mad Max. Like it's not just for me anyway. It's not just normal linear timeline. Like something strange is going on, especially with the game. Like I said, I think they missed an opportunity with the game to sort of get that new game plus cycle going on.
Right. Yeah.
Because he ends how he starts. Like he makes some progress in personal development, but then it all goes to shit, and he's back at the start, and just so. Like I think the first 3 Mad Max films, they had like a neat arc. Like 1, he sort of has a life, he loses it. 2, he's just lost and wandering. 3, he's still lost, but he sort of finds himself. Like that was the good thing about 3. Like originally, it wasn't even going to be a Mad Max film.
Yeah.
It was the Lost Kids and stuff, and
yeah.
Then I made up Mad Max, and like he sort of like he realized when he found these kids, like he'd become the thing he'd been fighting against his whole life. And that's why he sort of went back and helped him out, and sort of like that was his redemption sort of thing. So
right.
So like in terms of character arc, like that was good for Mad Max. Like that sort of put a bow on it. And then you get Fury Road, and where does it fit?
Right. Yeah. Where does it fit in that timeline? Because Mad Max 1 to Mad Max 2. I've always heard that it's, I think, 3 years between those two films. And then between Mad Max 2 and Beyond Thunderdome, it's like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then, all of a sudden Fury Road comes in, and, he's got his interceptor, and, people are saying... And then you also have to... obviously the nuclear Armageddon happened sometime between Mad Max 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So with Fury Road, there had obviously been, the nuclear Armageddon had happened. Yeah. So, I have no idea. I have no idea where it fits in. And so, and Miller's talked about how, I don't know if he's ever explained where it fits in. And
it's somewhere around 2. Like
somewhere around 2.
Yeah. Before it, after it, it's somewhere there.
Yeah.
So I think that's about as close as I can find it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because and Fury Road, we don't we see Hope and Glory, but we don't know anything about his wife and his kid.
No, because he had like a group of people he was looking after.
Right.
They sort of got killed. Like you see. Is Hope the daughter?
What's that?
Is Hope the daughter? Because it's like a mother and daughter.
I don't. Oh, is Hope his daughter?
No. But like Hope and daughter, like a mother and daughter.
Right. I think so.
Yeah. So you see the daughter, and like that like she died in his arms, and in the comic that matches up. Yeah. So, but I don't know where the rest. Yeah. Like he had a group, he lost them. So yeah.
And then we're supposed to get 2 more movies.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, is it going to be another 30 freaking years before we get them? I mean, because I thought I read something recently about Miller there being some sort of litigation over something, and how it's kind of pushed things back, and and so, I don't want, of course, and I don't know, maybe you mentioned it, where it would be cool to see, if it doesn't happen for another 10 years, Hardy's going to age 10 years in that time.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we're ever going to have an end to Max's story. Because I remember the original back around, I don't know, maybe it was around 2000, 2002. I used to belong to an online forum that talked a lot about the whole Mad Max PA thing. And it's when the story first started kind of coming out that there was going to be a new movie, and it was going to have Mel Gibson, but Mel Gibson was going to be old, and he was basically dying, and his son was then going to be charged with getting this group of women from point A to point B. Well, the getting the group of women from point A to point B survived to be in Fury Road, but obviously, the whole Mel Gibson thing went away. And so, that kind of would have been the end of Max Rockatansky.
Yeah.
And the beginning of, Max Jr. I don't know what they would have called him, but I'm sure they would have come up with some kind of, funny name for him like they do with everything else in the movies. But the names they come up with the characters and everything in those movies is just genius. I've sat there and tried, I'm not a writer, but sometimes I try to come up with, little goofy stuff that I think could be a story or whatever. And I've tried to, or like, Mad Max fan fiction. And I've tried to come up with those kind of names, and every single thing I come up with just sounds stupid, and it's just ridiculous. And I don't know if Miller comes up with all that stuff on his own, or if he must. I mean, he had all the names from 1 and 2, so
like the world building for Mad Max is amazing. Just
amazing.
Like the simple change of like gasoline to guzzling.
Yeah.
Like they consume fuel. It's guzzling now.
Yeah.
Guzzle was gasoline. Like it's great.
Yeah.
Something small like that. Like Word Burger. It's a book.
Yeah.
Like that. That's great.
How do you come up with that? The first time I saw The Road Warrior, I think because it came out in '82, didn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I was at the.
That's the second. Yeah.
Yeah, the second. Yeah, Mad Max 2.
Yeah.
I was at the fair, and it's when VHS first started coming out, and in the commercial building there was the local video rental store, and he was playing Road Warrior just kind of on a constant loop. He'd play it, rewind it. I spent the entire 5 days of the fair standing there at that booth watching the Road Warrior over and over, because I remember seeing, and I don't remember how I first knew about the movie, but I remember the newspaper, and I remember how they used to show what was playing at the theater.
Yeah,
and there was the Mad Max poster, or the Road Warrior poster that was in black and white. And I remember cutting it out. There was something that fascinated me about it. I didn't know. I must have read something somewhere about it. Yeah. And I sat there and watched it over and over. And then my dad got a membership there, and I rented that thing. Just constantly. It was the only movie I would rent, and then I finally got to see Mad Max, and I remember the first time I saw Mad Max, I was like, what? Because I kind of expected it to be like the Road Warrior.
Yeah.
You know? And it totally wasn't. And not until I got old enough to realize, okay, this is, kind of the genesis, the world's not broken yet, and all this stuff. But, yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote this, and I'm hoping it can help people. It did sort of grow and grow and grow. Because, you've got your basic, you can cover the plot, the setting, the characters, and then you've got, you want to get a bit of detail, and, there's so many different sorts of scenarios that you can sort of with. And so, I love Waterworld. Kevin Costner, love it. But then I'm sitting there there's not enough ice for that to happen. Sorry. But again, suspension of disbelief, you just go with it. And so, I sort of I wanted to touch on a few things like that, and sort of, and the first project I did with Wellard was the covers for the book series that they've gotten pushed back. That original Metanoia series, I'll get there someday.
Oh, that was yours, because I follow him too, and I followed his artwork and his PA artwork, and all his digital art and everything, and I remember those. I remember those pictures.
I still got them. I'm going to use them, but the series is just, the scope has just grown. Oh. But the thing that originally inspired that was I hated the idea that there's just faceless enemies, just stormtroopers. And you're just I killed them. They're stormtroopers.
Right.
And it's so Fallout is similar in that, oh, they're raiders, kill them. And it's like, well, why are they a raider? Like, have they got people depending on them? Like, no one's like, well, I guess some dicks may be like, okay, I'm going to go kill my neighbor.
Right.
But other people are like, well, I've got kids, they need food, my wife's sick, I'm going to go deal with this. And so, like, especially for that series, like, every character, even if they are like a violent dick, like, there's a pretty good reason, like, and you're going to go into that. And so there's no sort of just faceless, just let's kill them.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was a big part of that series. And, like, again, like, part of this guide was like, you can have enemies that you're just gunning down, but, like, they're people too. Like, there was a Civil War movie I watched recently. It had Sam Worthington in it. It's about, like, 3 women in the South who sort of have to hold out against, like, some crazy Union soldiers.
I have no idea.
But, I'm terrible with names. But yeah, they're, these 2 Union soldiers, like, they're just on, like, they're like scouts for the army. So they're way advanced. And, like, there's no sort of Confederate soldiers in the area, so they've just got free reign and they're just raping and pillaging. And there's Sam Worthington's character is like, you know, I've gone too far, like, I can't get back. Like, I don't know how to stop. And it's sort of, you know, he's gone beyond the pale, and that's sort of what explains why he's doing what he's doing. Like, he's not just this, well, he is like a crazed killer, but he's also sort of like, there's this, I'd say, like, it's a sadness that he's lost something and he doesn't know how to find his way back. And so, like, again, sorry, spoiler, he dies. There's a sort of, like, longing to sort of, like, be whole again as he dies. And so I think it's just good, like, storytelling. Like, if you want to have PA, you want to have enemies you can kill, sure. But just, I guess, make their deaths count for something. Yeah. Because otherwise it's just that Rambo, like, the bullet counter is just counting down and you're just 10 people and you're like, well, who cares? So I guess add meaning in as many places as you can. That's what I'm going for, I guess.
That's really interesting, coming at it from, you know, the perspective of, you know, the bad guys, you know, and because they have stories too. And, you know, I've watched, it's not PA, but there's a couple of really super good Star Wars independent movies. In fact, I just posted a couple of them on Facebook recently, and one of them is about a stormtrooper, and you follow his story, and it's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. So yeah, it would be cool to. It didn't Fallout New Vegas kind of do that with some of the factions where, you know, initially they were the bad guys, and then once you kind of start talking to them and figuring out, you know, why they're doing what they're doing, you're almost kind of like, oh well, shit, maybe, you know, do I join them? I mean, they're not really wrong, you know.
I think probably maybe like the Khans, the Great Khans.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
They're sort of like nomadic, like they're raiders, but at the same time, like they had like women and children, they camp.
Right.
And yeah, they were getting attacked by the NCR, and they're like, okay, women and children escape, and old people escape down the side alley. There's a bunch of like NCR soldiers who were like there, and like head office was like, shoot anyone who comes down. They're like, oh, it's women and children, and like do it.
Yep.
And like one of the snipers who was forced to do that under orders is actually Boone, the sniper companion you can get, who's sitting up a giant dinosaur. I really hope that thing's real. I know they use a lot of real locations, so I want to find that dinosaur.
Oh, but, sure. If it's in Vegas, yeah, they got way out in the desert. That's a pretty common, yeah.
And you can deal with his whole backstory as well. Like, he's been through hell as well. And like one of the endings with him is like, if you sort of don't help him sort of heal, like after the game, he goes back to NCR, finds the officer that ordered him to shoot, and he kills him and kills himself.
Oh wow! See, I don't know. See, I played it but I didn't finish it, and so yeah. Thanks for spoiling it. Appreciate it. I guess I don't have to play it now.
Well, that's one ending. Like, you can actually get a good ending with the Khans. Like, Like I think they go north into like, oh, it's not Utah. I'm
Nevada,
so bad with American states. But
Wyoming.
yeah, like
I
they
don't.
can leave and they can get wiped out, or they can sort of move on and sort of reestablish themselves elsewhere.
Oh,
Because you
cool.
got to think like it's been like what 200-ish years, and they've been around since like because they started in Vault 15 in
Yeah.
like Fallout 1, so they're like 200 years old.
Right.
Like their tribe, like they're a fairly well established group of individual like people, like so that's a whole culture that's going on. Like and I think that sort of thing's cool. But yeah, just in terms of bad guys, like obviously they're there to die for the story. Like that's their role. They're going to die. That's just what the story needs. But yeah, if you can add some more weight to that by giving them character. Like there's always like, oh, what is it? It's in some movie like these guys like hijack a car and like they turn around and like they're driving away and they're like, ooh, okay, we can escape now. They turn around, there's like a baby in the back. You're like, oh god, it's a kid. But, like, and then you find like that happens in real life. Like I read one story like a guy like hijacked this woman, took her car, and then like he saw the baby in the back. He's like, oh shit. So he drove back, gave her the baby, and drove off.
Oh, jeez.
And it's like, okay, that's it's still shitty, but at least he did that. So I was like, okay, yeah. So yeah,
Well, I'm going to ask you one final question.
okay, go for it.
What What is one thing that you would give up in order to become, I guess, a better writer?
Yeah.
What do you think is one thing that you would give up in order to do that?
What would I give up? Oh, I've already given up, like, because yeah, like I have no sense of smell,
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, so I can't smell anything. Um, so you can't really give up a handicap, can you? That's giving up a negative. What would I give? Yeah, okay. Man, like what? Like,
Anything.
I guess like, I need my fingers.
What do you hold near and dear that
I need my
that
fingers. I'd give up the ability to speak.
really?
Yeah, yep. I need sight, I need hearing, and I can still type words. So I'd give up, and I need my tongue. So I'd give up the ability to speak. Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, you need to let us know where we can find you because you got stuff going on, and people need to follow you, and they need to know what you're working on.
Okay. I do have a Facebook, but I don't use it as often as Twitter. I don't know. Facebook just doesn't seem to jive for me. I can't seem to get it to work well. So I'm on Twitter at JJ and I have a blog that I write ramblings from time to time at jjshurte.com. So if you like post-apocalyptic movies, games, or just random discussions about storytelling, I post there. So yeah,
Cool. Well, this has been awesome.
cool. Thank you.
This is really, really cool. This is my, you know what? This is my first international, not only speaking to an Australian, but speaking to an Australian who is now living in Taiwan.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, this is a milestone moment for me. I'm not kidding you.
Nice.
This is really, really incredible. I really appreciate you coming on.
No worries. I appreciate it as well. This has been good.
All right.
Yeah. It's yeah, foreign country. Like I talk to people at work, but then you go home. Not everyone here speaks English, so there's not a lot of dialogue going on. So yeah, no, this has been good.
Well, cool. All right. Well, it's been awesome knowing you, and thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Anytime.
All right. And with that, I will bid adieu.
Peace.
All right, Wanderers, thanks for listening. You can find my blog at fromthewastes11811.wordpress.com. My email is fromthewastes@gmail.com. And you can also find me on Twitter at fromthewastes and on Facebook at Facebook/fromthewastes. You can also find this podcast on Podbean, iTunes, Player FM, pretty much all your podcast players. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment and leave a review. Until next time, take cover and take care.